Okay. I am Travis Neville. This is the Travis Neville Podcast. I wrote a book called Reviving Masculinity. You can get it anywhere books are sold, any damn where. I got the opportunity on Monday, January 22nd, to be a guest on a live broadcast of the Berm Pit podcast, which is some guys out of Pittsburgh. You guys will remember Scott. I did a one-on-one with him last month, and this is the first time meeting Matt. And I had kind of figured out who he was from social media. But man, you'll see, he gets real fiery. He gets real fired up about politics and stuff, and that's not really my game. But great guys. We chatted a bunch after the recording was done, and really enjoyed it. Anyway, I hope this conversation in some way helps you to get your shit together. Have a great week.
What's up, everybody? Happy Monday. Monday, February 22nd, 4 o'clock p.m. on the East Coast, 1 o'clock in the Pacific. This is the Berm Pit Podcast. I am your host, Scott Benjamin Sieverts. To my right, as always, Matt Wakulik. Matty Wack, what's up, brother?
What's up, brother?
It is our favorite day and time of the week.
It is our I'm just putting out a little reminder for people to go to Channel 2.
We switched to Channel 2 today on Spreely TV. You're watching us live on Spreely TV. Spreely is your home for free speech. It stands for Speak Freely. You can find Spreely on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire Stick. You can download the Freedom Hub app right to your phone or smart device. It is absolutely free. Just go right into the App Store and type in Freedom Hub, all one word, comes up. And you can, once you open the app, you can select Spreely TV. You can look at the list of shows on there. They have everybody from Dominic Izzo, Austin Peterson, The Dumb Show, Doug Billings, Shannon Joy. There's a lot of great content creators on there. Plus, they show documentaries. Spreely really doing a great job. Shout out to them. All right, let's bring in our guest today. With us today via Zoom is a previous guest. Him and I got to basically spend a whole day together. He's over the summer, he sent me a book. He is the author of the book, Reviving Masculinity. His name is Travis Neville. Travis, how are you, sir?
What's up, fellas? So glad to be here as always. I enjoyed my time the last time I was there. Thanks so much for being such a great host. Very welcoming, and I'm glad to be back.
You were awesome, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump right into it again, buddy. Go ahead. What do you got?
So here, when we ended the podcast, and you can find this podcast, we do recorded podcasts and we do live shows. Our recorded podcasts are numbered. The live shows are just live. But our last recorded podcast we put out was Travis Neville. He's the author of Reviving Masculinity. We ended that podcast. You can find that on Spreely TV. It's up there for you to watch. When we ended the podcast, I asked Travis to give me his top 5 of these 18 characteristics that are right on the front of the book here. There's 18 characteristics that Travis listed as being essential to men. Now, when we ended the podcast, I just asked for his top 5. I gave my top 5. Matt, now I know you haven't read the book, and that's my fault. I know you haven't read the book, but looking at these 18 characteristics, Matt, in any particular order, if you want to give me 5, and then I'd like Travis to respond on your take, how you feel about some of these characters. What do you think are the most important ones here?
Well, actually, I'm going to throw you a curveball here, and I'm only going to give you 2 because, in my opinion, there's only 2 that really matter. This is my opinion. Okay, all of these are good, just like Jack Donovan has the 4 tactical virtues. But when it comes to the most important, I'm going to give you only 2 that matter. I'm going to give you the least important of the 2 first, and that is violence. Violence, as Jack Donovan said, is the fundamental function of masculinity. It is the highest level of mass. If you master something, you are at the highest level of violence. You cannot be defeated, and no one can defeat you, collectively speaking, holistically speaking. So violence would be basically the number 2 of the most important, because violence is what rules the world. Money can just buy you men who can do violence. So money does not rule the world.
At least the threat of violence
does. That being said, you must be able to master it defensively and offensively. This is how civilizations are started. This is how people defend their nation, their tribe, their perimeter. This is how people defend or conquer all throughout human history, is through violence. We've discussed that before. And, when you dominate a space and have eliminated all competitors within that space, you are free to shape the reality in that space. That's just a overwhelming fact. And as we know, most of the time, whatever government is in power, they have to use violence to control the people underneath of them, whether it's a good government or bad government. That's just the way that it goes. Now, the second one, and this is my most important, it's honor, right? And what is honor when we break it down to the base root? Truth. That's what, to be honest. Whenever you honor something, you are true to it, right? So basically, honor just means truth. That being said, I forget who said the quote. It's a famous quote by somebody. I don't remember who said it, but it was actually in the movie Excalibur in 1982, if you remember that movie about King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. And they were asking Merlin, all the Knights of the Round Table were asking, what's the most important thing in life? What's the most important thing, Merlin? Because everybody would seek Merlin's advice. And Merlin said, truth. It's always truth. Because when a man lies, he murders a part of the world. And I think the number one problem, not only in America and Western civilization, in the whole world, is people have been taught lies their whole life. And as George Orwell said, the quote is, whoever controls the past controls the future, and whoever controls the future or the present controls the past. Now, that being said, you can make up anything you want to, and everybody can be indoctrinated, brainwashed, and conditioned to believe anything. And people, as we know, through COVID, through this Ukraine war, through multiple different things, all throughout history, most of it has been a lie. And even Napoleon Bonaparte said what? History is just a lie that is collectively agreed upon. So truth would be, honor is the most important thing, because if you can't even honor your friends or your family, your wife, anything, you are the opposite of that. You are now the lie. You have become the lie. And if God, and for all you Christians out there, if God is the truth, what's the devil? The father of lies. That's his name. So you have become the lie. You have become what is evil, and that's the root of all evil, in my opinion, is dishonesty, deceit, and lies. So honor is the most important one out of all of these, in my opinion. So I hate to say I didn't give you 5. I only gave you 2, but that's just my take. Go ahead. I yield back to you, Travis.
Travis, when you put those two, when we can focus on those two, because when you see on the cover of his book here, the 18 characteristics, you do see honorable and honest right next to each other. But violent, Travis, you would agree that with Matt there, that violent, for a man to have control over that is extremely important.
Matt, I very much agree with what you said. I mean, here we live in this most civilized place, in the most civilized time in the history of human life. And what the hell do you think made it that way? If you don't like violence, if you think that it's not necessary or it's just a thing of the past, it is because you are outsourcing it to other people. And at this point, that's at least the police and definitely the government. And it isn't, when we're talking about violence in the realm that Matt's talking about, it isn't the actual physical act of it. It's the threat of it. It's knowing that it could be there and knowing that you are weak and will be a victim of it. Right. And if you don't like that, if you don't like the fact that we live in a great country here and we got, comfortable places to live and food right down the road and all the comforts that we have, if you really don't like that, give your house back to the Native Americans and move back to Europe, because I'm telling you what, it was violence that got you here. That's the reason that you are here. It's the reason you live in this country, is because of violence. We are all of us, everyone listening to this, the 3 of us on this show, we are descended from generations of victorious violence. Okay. We're not descended from the losers because they fucking died. Right? So our genetics are built for that. Okay, we have been selectively bred, in fact, over generations and generations up until about 100 years ago. Things got real comfortable. But if you can't embrace that, if you want to ignore it, you're in for some trouble.
Yeah, right. It's not about bloodlust, or psychosis. It's not about that. It's about, Jack Donovan, again, I have to relate to him because he had the essay Violence is Golden,
which was great.
It's elemental. Violence is just like fire. It can warm a man and his entire family, or it can burn them all alive. It's needed. You have to have. I mean, if everybody on the planet Earth was nice to each other all the time and nobody ever did any harm to one another, of course there would be no such thing as violence. But that's not reality. And the reality to what you said, all of us, all of our ancestors at some point used violence and won. That's it.
Now, the second one here that you brought up, but the two that are really close together on your book, Travis, are honorable and honest, which, are kind of closely linked there. What's your take or response on Matt's take there?
The Ho chapters. So they, I agree. In order to be, in order to honor something, you respect it. I would go it, but it doesn't go the opposite direction. Just because you do respect something doesn't mean you honor it. But if you're going to honor it, then you do respect it. Like, hey man, I respect my pickup truck, but I might not honor it with a tattoo on my body, right? Like I honor that, it can get the job done, but I don't have to show it any sort of sign of that. I don't have to act in that fashion. But in order to accept that, in order to look at a thing or a group or anything and say, this is good, I respect it, you have to be very honest about what you're looking at. You got to be able to say, I can list off the goods and the bads about it, whether it's a group, whether it's a political party, no matter what it is. If you can do that, it's going to require honesty, right? And I think that's where we go wrong in this country with the culture wars, is people don't take the time to really assess that instead of taking the time to analyze and looking at the details about what people are trying to cram down your throat. People just believe it. And that's dishonest. It's invariably dishonest. And like Matt said, you piss on everybody who brought you here when you do that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so being that you are the author of Reviving Masculinity, and Travis, where can people pick this up at?
Anywhere. It's on Amazon for sure. You can get on my website, travisneville.com. Pick yourself up an Ideal Man t-shirt if you want. I got stickers, all that kind of crap. I'll sign it if you order it on the website. But yeah, Amazon for sure. You can get it on Audible. It's me reading it. It's at Barnes and Noble. I'm amazed every time I have to go in there and Google it for some reason. I find a new website that's carrying it. It's finally made its way to thriftbooks.com, so you probably get it for like $2 or something. But yeah, it's everywhere.
That's good. Well, let's get both of your opinions here on the modern man today here, and we're not speaking about any other country here, because the three of us are citizens of the United States of America, and we all three of us are proud of the country, or at least the root or origin or the creation of it. So, Matt, go to you first. Breaking down today's modern man in the United States of America, where do you think we're at as a society of men, the masculinity and all that stuff?
We kind of had a little bit of this discussion with our last guest, Alan Zabrowski, where I said, Americans, you've said they've gotten comfortable, and I agree 100%. We have not fought on our own land for anything since the Civil War. Okay, there's been no battle or warfare on our own land. We've never had to fight for anything here in 150 years-ish, I guess that a little bit more than that. So that being said, all of our wars were overseas. And of course, that's 20th century. And today in the 21st century. And I could argue that they were all unnecessary, completely could have been avoided, unnecessary. Multiple different historians make that argument. But here on our own soil, men have gotten comfortable, as Travis said, because they've never had to fight for anything when it comes to violence and warfare. Now, they might have to have done something with a home intruder or something like that. Police have to fight for certain things, SWAT team, when it goes to criminals. But as a nation, as a collective of American men, we've never had to fight for anything. We've never had to fight for, well, we had to, but we didn't. We refused to fight for our freedom, right? We know for a fact that we're talking about American men here. We're talking about America. The Constitution of the United States is the foundation of our country. Period. End of story. It is the foundation. It is what this nation is built upon. Okay. Otherwise, it's just a geographic location. Okay. What makes a nation is a nation's culture and what it's made up of. Okay. We don't have anarchy. We have a government and we had a constitutional republic. Those constitutional rights have been shredded since the Civil War, but again, they fought to preserve their freedom and liberty in the Civil War. Again, it's also known as the War of Southern Independence because of what Lincoln did. Number one violator of constitutional rights, and that's not my opinion, statistical fact. That being said, even World War I, Woodrow Wilson came down on constitutional rights on the citizens. World War II, FDR came down and shredded constitutional rights. And that goes through most presidents. I mean, I can name everything: Federal Reserve, the creation of the NFA, shredding Second Amendment rights, shredding First Amendment rights. COVID happens. Nobody got up and threatened the use of violence to defend their constitutional rights, to defend life, liberty, and property. No one even spoke about it. Not one politician out there. Not one. Not a single one said, Americans, COVID, they're shredding your constitutional rights. They agreed to that. Most Republicans, quote unquote, whatever that means anymore, conservatives, whatever that means, agreed that the Constitution was being shredded. What did they do? Did anybody call for the defense of life, liberty, and property by the use of the Second Amendment? Nobody. Not one. Not one that I know. Trump definitely didn't. And he had power to take action, as we said. And what did the people do? What did the men of this country do? Well, half the men agreed with the constitutional deprivations, and the other half, the so-called conservative patriots, said, oh, we just have to cast ballots for Republicans to get our rights back. So that being said, if Christians who are mainly conservatives, most conservatives are Christians, if they believe God gives us our rights and not the government, then why are they begging government to give us our rights? That's the first, how would I say this? That's the first symptom, I guess, of the emasculation of men, is they now have outsourced their rights and their freedom to politicians. You can see it today. All they do is beg and rely and depend for a politician to save their freedom, to make them more money, to restore any type of liberty that has been taken. They don't want to fight themselves. They don't even speak about fighting themselves. However, they wear the costume, Travis. They wear the costume of masculinity. They have a "Don't Tread on Me" shirt on. They even carry guns and buy hundreds of thousands of dollars in guns. Yet they never, ever say that they should use it or even promote the idea of using it to defend life, liberty, and property from domestic enemies. None of them. Zero. You have citizens like me saying it, but you don't have any quote unquote leaders saying it. So men have been psychologically conditioned over the past however many decades, century, post-Civil War, to be dependent and reliant on other men, namely government officials, to give them their freedom, to give them whatever. So that is the main culprit for the emasculation of men, because I don't give a shit how bad of an MMA fighter you are. I don't give a shit how many guns you have. I don't even give a shit if you got Navy SEAL training. If you refuse to enter the arena for the battle of freedom and liberty, then you're a coward. I don't care how badass you are. I don't care how many muscles you have, how much weight you can bench. You are not violence. You are not at the fundamental function of masculinity, because you refuse to use it unless you want to fight a guy in a bar who disrespected your wife, or maybe shoot a home intruder. But against the greatest enemy of freedom that ever existed, a tyrannical Marxist police state, they will never even speak about fighting that enemy. They will never speak about fighting that evil. And in my opinion, that patriotic warrior that we had in the 1776, those people who fought for freedom on their own land, on their own soil to save their own families and their own property, that American patriotic warrior, that masculinity that we had then is almost extinct. And people don't even look to it anymore. That American patriotic warrior is nothing more than a hammer seeking a nail in a house that will never be built. Travis, I yield back to you.
Well, Travis, again, Matt's perspective is extremely unique, but he's not wrong. But
I know, yeah.
The question here is, the modern day man here in the United States of America, where do you think the modern man is today and where we're at here in the society?
Well, to address what Matt said, Napoleon said, give them bread and circuses and they'll never revolt. And he couldn't have been more right. I mean, nobody went hungry because the government installed socialism to replace democracy during COVID. So people were fine, right? And that's why they don't revolt. You're talking about the Revolutionary War, and those are men, like you said, defending their homes and the things that they own and their people. And there's no more devastating fighting force ever. Never been created anywhere ever. No, doesn't matter how many nukes you got, airplanes. There's going to be some hick out in the woods who's gonna survive and win. Think about why we won the Revolutionary War to begin with. We were overmatched. We won. We're protecting our homes, right? Think about why we lost in Afghanistan. Those guys were protecting their homes. Okay, that one man with a rifle is the most dangerous force in the world, but that man has been hoodwinked to believe that he doesn't need to protect it at this point. Yeah, I got my bread and I got my, NFL football on TV. I'm good. And that is a sad commentary on the state of masculinity. I'm a proponent of personal sovereignty. When you talk about rioters, when you talk about protests, the people who, when I think about that, it's usually not people who think like we do. Our people tend to, I think, sit back in their own personal sovereignty and go, I don't think I'm going to recognize that government. Like, I'll tell you right now, I love my country, but I don't trust at all anyone running it. That's a different thing. Okay. Those are politicians. These are people that their whole lives they're just salesmen, right? That's all they do. And then we take the largest accumulation of wealth in the entire history of humanity, and we give it to these jackasses. They don't know. They've never run a business, other than Trump. You can't find a politician who knows anything about doing anything with money, and yet don't get me started. Well, you are getting me started.
I love it. Hey, speak freely, brother. Come on.
Yeah. Here's the state of masculinity today. When I pull up to a gas station in the winter and there's a dude sitting shotgun playing on his phone while his girl pumps gas, there's she's coming out of the store carrying a bunch of shit in both her hands and he's letting her do it. I think that there's a jam up there, and it's this. She's going to tell you, oh, I'm fine. I got this. Because the world's telling her she needs to be independent. She needs to be a strong woman and all this shit. And he's going to buy it. He's going to, okay, well, she wants to, don't want any trouble. But, bro, you don't need her permission to be a good man. You don't need her appreciation for it either. So I don't give a shit if she told you she's got it. You get the fuck out of the car and you pump the goddamn gas. And then you go over there and you help her carry the shit in from the store. I don't give a shit what she says to you. He's just parroting back the shit that's been told to her by the internet and social media, right? Step up and do it. Now, that's a very basic example, okay, far less violent and large scale than Matt's talking about, but that's what we're missing. We're missing that step of proactivity, of stepping up and going, I'm accountable for this situation. I'm not going to be told what to do. I'm going to decide what I need to do, and I can ask for, I guess, forgiveness later if it's not going to go well. But that's what men are missing right there, is that idea that I'm supposed to be running shit. I'm supposed to be in charge. I'm supposed to know when shit's going bad, and I'm not going to let outside sources tell me that. That's what we're missing. Nobody's taught that anymore. And a big part of it is, we talk about this all the time, 40% of Americans are raised by single moms. You don't have a masculine fucking role model. And boys learn how to be men socially. I talk about this all the time too. You got to see a guy doing it right. And they're not seeing it. I'm not excusing anybody. I'm just explaining it. But that is the situation. Men aren't men anymore. You can be so successful as a guy, make a ton of money, have a great family, do all this shit, never be able to do anything with your hands, never have to fight anything, build anything, tap into that natural strength that you have, the things that define you as opposed to being a woman. You in our society today can get through your entire life and never do any of that shit and be successful. And until that ends, we're going to be in trouble. I say this all the time too, man, unless there's an alien invasion, unless we actually have bad guys on our soil, I don't think men are going to step up, man. I wish it was different. And I earned the right to bitch about it because I fucking wrote the secret to success here. I wrote this is what's going to get you over it if you can do this shit. So I'm not just going to stand and bitch. I actually offered a solution, but that's what's happening, man. Guys just don't step up. Nobody's asking them to, and there very frankly isn't a reason to, unless you come up with it on your own, like Matt's talking about. Unless you see what's going on and see the changes. Shit, man, politically, you know what happened after the Civil War. All of a sudden, the federal government, they like all the constitutional amendments up to the Civil War were about limiting power, or most of them. And after the Civil War, most of them were about expanding government power. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. They kept taking away more and more and more. And if you just do it by little steps, people don't notice. I mean, those people up in charge, they're not stupid. They know what to do. They know how to get control. They know how to get power.
Well, if the people let them take the power, then I guess they're going to have it.
Yep. We do see that they chip away at it slowly, so that it's all right. We'll let people compromise on these little these little compromises. Like, all right, we'll give them this.
Remember what I said about compromise?
Eventually, it just chips and chips away at things to where we're left with a shell of what used to be a constitutional republic.
Right, and this is why compromise can't happen ever. You don't compromise. You don't compromise. When it comes to good and evil, you don't compromise, right? If I told Scotty, like, hey, Scotty, I hate your wife. I hate her. Well, Matt, I love my wife. Okay, well, I want to kill her. Well, Matt, I don't want my wife to die. Okay, compromise with me. Chop her leg off. Okay, that's not a compromise. You don't compromise like that, okay? And again, Ayn Rand said this. You don't compromise. There's no compromise between food and poison because you just end up dead. And there's no compromise between good and evil. There's no negotiation between heroes and villains. There's no truce between liberty and tyranny. And there's no compromise between good and evil. You can't do it. You can't compromise two opposing forces. You can't compromise. Go ahead.
Well, one of the epidemics that we're facing too, and Travis, this will be kind of the last thing we touch on the book, is men's testosterone has dropped significantly over the years. Also, we talked about the grip strength, and Alan Zabrowski, Dr. Zabrowski, brilliant guy. He talked about testosterone depletion in men throughout the years, whether it's through food, whether it's through a sedentary lifestyle, but also the grip strength study you did. And we made a reel about it, but Travis, if you would, please, just that kind of study that's in your book, with the grip strength, and also you can touch on testosterone, or you can talk about getting yourself right through exercise and eating right, whatever you want to talk about. But there is an epidemic there of depleted testosterone levels in men today.
Definitely a bunch of factors there. If you read Estrogeneration by Dr. Anthony J, it's going to talk about a lot of microplastics and fluoride in treated water. I mean, I'm on a well just for that reason. There's estrogen coming into our systems from everything. So I think to some extent, if you're a young guy from birth, you're going to get more estrogen in you than we did, for example, just because of the changes in technology. But that's pretty small. Really, it's environmental. Nobody's asking you to do that shit. Matter of fact, masculinity in general is it's like not popular. Nobody wants to. It hurts everybody's feelings. It's offensive to everyone. If you're in a school, that's all run by women too. You're a boy, you're trying to do boy things. You want to compete. You want to take risks. Dodgeball's out. All the sports are gone. Most of the recesses are gone. Like all hands-on stuff. All the vocational education programs are getting rid. So school just becomes closer and closer to just really being female dominated, right? And degrees wise, Americans in the 60s were 60% of the college degrees were earned by men. 40% were women. Now it's flip-flop.
Yeah.
Because school is set up for boys. Yeah, testosterone wise, the standard male testosterone level for an adult male, somewhere around 700 in the typical average. And it's dropped off significantly just in the last 14 years. I don't know why it's exactly that amount, but average right now is down in the low 400s, which if you went into your doctor right now and you tested at 400, he's going to be like, bro, does your dick work even? I mean, like, that's pretty low, right? You're going to have all kinds of problems at that level. And that's the standard at this point. You know, we're going to be fine because, like you said, physical fitness aspect, you want to increase your natural testosterone, lift heavy fucking weights, do scary shit, man. I ride a motorcycle, I climb tall ass ladders. Every time you have that fear response, of course your body responds by producing testosterone because that's what's going to get you through any kind of dangerous thing. We're evolved that way. But nobody actually experiences any fear anymore, any real fear. You know, they're worried about some shit with the HR department at work. You know, they're not worried about roving bands of bad guys in their subdivision, right?
Yeah.
Like their food supply at Kroger's not at risk, right? There's no real danger anymore. So these guys just, you know, manufacture adversity, create a bunch of cortisol, which further reduces your testosterone. And you got a big fat slob sitting on the couch, piece of shit, man. So be ashamed of yourself.
Skinny, emasculated men that you know don't do anything. And Alan Zabrowski said how feminine the girl or the men looked, and how in shape and fit the females looked.
Right.
But we can still go back though, Travis, in the 1770s, 1780s during the Civil War, or I'm sorry, Revolutionary War. Those men weren't weightlifters, you know. They weren't weightlifters. And that being said, I still, you brought up fear, and I still believe that has a lot to do with it. It's having that courage, right? I think you have bold. You don't have courage on here. You have bold, being bold, but same thing, right? So courage, you don't have the courage anymore. There's people that won't even say certain things because they don't want to be called a racist or a Nazi or a fascist. So they won't even say certain things.
So then they self-censor.
I don't want to say that. I don't want to involve myself in it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and then ironically, they become a part of the problem. As soon as you start being afraid of that shit, the fear I'm talking about is different than that. Like, it's like a physical response that's actually good for you when you experience it sometimes. But you're right, man. The guys won't even... I've watched this happen. So I'm sitting with a bunch of guys that I know. It's actually a friend of mine and a bunch of his friends. And this commercial comes on about how women retire with less money. And I watch them kind of just slowly kind of roll their eyes and look at the ground. Like, motherfucker, say something. You know what I mean? I disagree with it too. Women don't work as many hours as men. I'm not making that up. That's a statistical fact. Men, on average, work 4 more hours per week than women do. Men don't take maternity leave like women do. There's a million reasons why men retire with more money. Men are also more factual and logical about how they think. So of course men are more. I was a high school teacher for a long time. Boys are better at math and science. What does it take to invest well and retire well? Fucking math, right? Girls are better at English and art and shit like that. The creative end of them. Is that going to help you make more money? Fuck no, it's not. There's a million reasons why. It isn't because the fucking patriarchy. So what I'm telling you, guys self-censor. And now you're a part of the problem. Instead of being like, man, I can't stand this, you are becoming part of the problem. You are causing it to get worse.
Yeah. Amen to that. Did want to get it takes today on a current event issue.
Okay.
We'll get to that in a second. Also, Travis, if you wouldn't mind hanging around with us, we do a word association game at the end of the show. And what I did is I grabbed a list of names of gentlemen that you quoted in your book.
Okay.
And I'm going to say their name, and both you and Matt can give your take of what you think about them. The word association game doesn't have to be one word response. You can say whatever you want about that individual. But Matt, to your point, before we get into this story today, what's going on in Texas with the governor taking matters into his own hands, so to speak, in the border crisis, I will say this. We've talked about this a little bit. Evangelical Christians do mostly vote on the right side of things. They're Republican.
Yeah.
And they will say, hey, this is a Christian nation, right? But they won't do anything about what's going on in this country. No. And there's a verse in the Bible that I think is absolutely, it hasn't done the Christian community good, and that's the turn the other cheek verse.
Yeah.
But today, Christians today are actionless, impotent. They're do-nothings. They bend the knee and they don't stand up for what they believe in. They don't. They are looking for a savior, like a Donald Trump or somebody that's going to come
They've
in.
even compared him to Jesus. Marjorie Taylor Greene is one of them.
I've seen that, and this is just my take on things. You have to take action. You look throughout the stories in the Bible. David was a man of action. He grabbed those stones. He slayed Goliath. Jesus Christ himself was a man of action. He walked into that temple and he saw them selling goods. And what did he do?
Made whips out of cord and beat the
and
hell.
He chased them out. He chased them out. So my advice to those, and I grew up in a Christian household. My mother,
what people was he chasing out?
He was chasing out a certain group of people. We don't have the bell today, so but my mother today, she is a professor at Geneva College here in Beaver Falls. It's a Christian college, but there's no action there. There's no action there.
There's no even anything being spoken towards taking action.
And you can argue that more of the world is coming into the church than the church is going out to the world. The church is being affected with certain things. You go walk into a church today, and the songs that they're singing, it sounds like you could sing to a love, like a lover or something like that. It's not what the church has been increasingly weakened throughout the years. And that's a huge part of things. For us to be a Christian nation, Christians don't stand up at all. It's a very become a very weak religion, in my opinion. But news of the day, Travis, what we're dealing with in this migrant crisis at the border. It's been going on for some time. In fact, multiple decades it's been going on. But the governor has kind of taken matters into his own hands, where he's activated the National Guard. He's also used local police, county sheriffs, and things like that to apprehend and basically do the job of ICE. Matt, what do you think about this? And I have something just came up on the feed. It was kind of a breaking story, and I'll say that in a second. But what do you think about this?
Well, I mean, I'm glad he did that. Of course, it's been going on for 30 years, so I don't know why it finally took him this long. But at least he did it, and hopefully they're being successful. However, I am not sure how many are already in the country, and I'm not sure what Governor Abbott is actually doing with the people that he catches. Go ahead.
This is the breaking news story here, right now, and I'll say it in a second. But Travis, what's your take on all this?
Man, it's Confederacy, and I love that. Here's what it is: it's the states going, "Fuck you, federal government. We're going to do what we know is right," and this is what personal sovereignty is about. It is about, hey, I won't recognize your power. Anytime somebody revolts anytime somebody has a protest, it means that you recognize that there's a bad guy there, and you're essentially begging them for something, some sort of charity, some sort of, help. And you can't be sovereign if you do that, because sovereignty means that I recognize myself as the power. I recognize myself as the. And I think that's what Texas is doing. They're like, fuck you, federal government. This ain't right. We're going to go down there and take care of it. I read this morning, got a buddy who's pretty hooked into politics in Arkansas. They sent help. I saw a graphic earlier where, like 20 other states are joining with Texas on this one. Man, I love that. I mean, I love that. And the federal government's role at this point should never be to push back on the states. The role should be, if this is what the states want, that's what we have to do. I mean, there is no such thing as 40 states of the union against the federal government, because the federal government should be representing those 40 states, right? If things are working the way they're supposed to work. So we shall see, man. I love that Texas stepped up and did that. It's exactly what Matt was talking about. They are stepping out of their comfort zone and doing something about it. Now, I don't know exactly what's happening.
It's election season too.
Right? Yeah.
So
I was thinking about that too.
Theater, but who knows? Like, I really do hope they are taking true action. Everything's being handled correctly. Go ahead.
Well, this is in when since we've been on, the U.S. Supreme Court voted 5-4 to allow federal agents to cut the razor wire that Texas installed. Actually, So the Supreme Court has come out and said the feds can go down there and take down the wire that they put up.
Yep.
How about that?
Well, here's what they can do.
It literally just came out while we were on.
So federal
timing, by the way.
Federal agents. So that could be anybody that's under the Department of Justice, headed by Merrick Garland. Ding. But Governor Abbott can himself, with state police and National Guard, along with any county sheriff and any local police department. They are allowed to, under the United States Constitution and U.S. law code, arrest every single one of those federal agents for breaking the law. Now it is clear, and I said it on this show before, I said it on Dominic Izzo's show. Title 8, Section 1324 of the U.S. law code, it is illegal to harbor or protect or aid or whatever illegal immigrants. It is literally in the U.S. law code. And also, Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution, the federal government's job is to do what? Protect the country from invasion and invasion and domestic violence. This would be invasion. So it's in Article 4 of the Constitution that the government's responsibility to protect from, and this is an invasion. Am I wrong? Is it an invasion?
I don't think.
Travis, is it invasion? Are people invading the country?
Not if the federal government's opening the door and saying, "Come on in."
Right, right. So
yeah,
they're aiding
right.
They're helping the invasion.
Yeah, for sure. And that's illegal as shit. You guys, this is actually hugely significant. Okay, these types of moves right here that you're talking about, Scott. I'm kind of glad that you just said that. I don't like the outcome of it, as far as I don't like the federal government pushing back. But the fact that they are, that creates conflict. What's Texas going to do now? How are they going to raise the stakes? We're one step away from Fort Sumter. Okay, and it isn't. This doesn't result in a civil war. This results in a revolution. It's a very different thing. When the people overthrow the federal government, that is a revolution. This is not going to be states versus the states. Don't forget, man, liberal versus conservative. Liberals are afraid of guns. They don't fucking have any. There's never going to be a civil war here. Okay, that's a one-sided thing. It's over in 15 minutes. But a revolution, that's a different thing. Okay, yeah. And that's what we're talking about right now. Make no mistake.
We just need law enforcement to enforce the law, and they didn't during COVID, so I don't know if they're going to do so now. But I'm curious to find out what happens. But again, every law enforcement agent within every city, county, and the state of Texas is allowed to use violence against these criminals who are breaking the law and harboring and supporting illegal immigrants. That's just a fact.
So how does that shake out then? We come back to our violence argument. Okay, whoever has the largest threat of violence at that moment, that's
and's willing to use it. And's willing to use it.
Well, that's the threat, right?
And the sheriff, Travis, county sheriffs can deputize
anyone, the whole town. Yeah,
you can have an army
deputized.
Night.
Yeah, and I hope that's how it goes down, man. This aggression will not stand. Man.
President.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Just don't go to Austin because that's basically California east,
that's
right?
Huge liberal city.
Yeah.
Well, I hope the Governor Abbott down there, and the people of Texas there, and especially law enforcement, like you said, county sheriffs. I hope they stand their ground on this one and fight back, push back.
And I hope the other people help them, man. Yeah. I hope other states keep stepping up and heading down there. Like I said, Arkansas is involved at this point. I don't know who they sent, or if it was just a gesture, or if they actually sent some real power. But each state's got control of its own National Guard. You know, you can control that.
Well, the president can federalize them, though.
Of course. But we'll see, man. Ultimately, it comes down to Americans doing what's right. Now we're back to that masculinity argument. You deciding what you think is right and moving in that direction. I just can't see American troops shooting at Americans. I just can't see it happening, man. Not other guys who are wearing shoulder patches. Okay? Right. Those guys are not going to shoot at each other. Okay. Yeah. I believe that we're all on the same team when it comes to those guys.
I have friends currently who I train with. Currently, I have a few friends that are in the National Guard. And I asked them that question. I said, what percentage of the National Guard do you believe would fire upon American citizens? Because I said that's probably 20% would, 80% wouldn't. That's what I said. He goes, Matt. He goes, it's 50-50. Mm-hmm.
Are you shitting me?
He goes, they're so brainwashed, he said. And I only take his word for it, both these guys, because they are in the National Guard. Now, this is just Pennsylvania. Well, this is just Pennsylvania, but they said 50-50.
Look at law enforcement officials during COVID. Yeah. They were willing to arrest people for defying the lockdowns and things like that. And they're your local citizens. They're your fellow citizens. Yeah, I mean, you look at what Ian Smith went through.
Yep.
I mean, those police officers in New Jersey arrested him for wanting to keep his gym open. And
they violated the law,
and they were where he got arrested at. That's in his county, in his area. It's local police that came.
Sheriff did nothing. Local police. Yep.
So, anyways, well, we hope for the best here, but
we'll see what happens, man. I'm excited about it. Very honestly, the pendulum's been swinging to the left for since the early '90s when I was in college. I remember thinking, man, this shit's getting pretty liberal when I was, and it's been swinging that way ever since, man. 30 straight years of that. Something needs to turn it back. That's the natural way of things, right? Like fashion. It's bell bottoms, then it's tight pants, and pretty soon it's fucking bell bottoms again. So politically, we need to swing back. It needs to happen, and I think it's going to take something pretty big.
Alan Zabrowski said we're past the point. He goes, it's just going to be a slow death. Basically, you can't get out of the event horizon of the black hole. You just keep getting sucked in. You can put on some engines maybe to slow it down, but he said, this is Zabrowski. It's not what I said. Zabrowski said. He said it's already over.
No shit.
Well, we all know,
and his credentials are through the roof.
No, so. he does have a great resume. But here, as we're starting to shut things down today, here, our guest today, Travis Neville, he is the author of Reviving Masculinity. He was on episode 45 of the Berm Pit podcast. Here, you can watch that on Spreely TV. If you have a Roku TV, Apple TV, Fire Stick, download the Freedom Hub. You can check out that episode. It's a great book too. Go and buy it on travisneville.com. It is fantastic.
Thanks, brother.
But as we close down today, we're going to do what we always do, which is either a quiz or a word association game. So I selected some names out of your book, Travis.
Right.
Quotes. He does a great job of adding in different quotes throughout the book from gentlemen that have accomplished great things. And so today I'm going to name some names. Maddie, I'll start with you first.
Yeah.
And then Travis, you go. And you just give me the first thing that comes to mind, or you can elaborate on some things. But the first one today is a mutual friend of both of ours as far as podcasting goes. He's been a guest on Travis Neville's podcast. He's also been a guest on our podcast. He was the author of The Way of Men, Jack Donovan. Maddie?
Yeah, I said this in the interview with Ian Smith. I mean, Jack Donovan's book, The Way of Men, changed my life. I mean, he single-handedly turned me into the person I am today to basically, I mean, you guys know this. I have no fear to speak. I literally no fear. I'm on an FBI watch list. I got denied. I was denied my suppressor tax stamps, 2 of them. People talk about me all the time. I've been in the newspaper, called every name in the book. I just don't care. Okay. And Jack Donovan taught me to like be fearless, to have that courage, strength. I always worked out.
Yep.
But I would say 2017, after hearing
you became bold.
After hearing his video speaking about his essay, Violence is Golden, my brother had sent me his 3 books. He sent me a collection of his essays, which is called A Sky Without Eagles. He sent me Becoming a Barbarian and Way of Men. And I'll tell you what, Way of Men and Becoming a Barbarian, those 2 books just changed my life. I mean, that dude was spot on. However, again, and I mean this in the nicest, polite way possible, he has changed his perspective on things. He's changed his way. He's not the same guy. He doesn't promote the Way of Men becoming barbarian style narratives anymore. And I think it's more of a theatrical money-making lifestyle he has now. And it's just not interesting to me. And I'm not seeing those 4 tactical virtues that he spoke about in The Way of Men coming from him anymore. I'm just not seeing it.
First word I think of is inspiration. I don't mind that maybe he as a guy is not exactly the same as what he preaches, so to speak, because what he preaches is out there, and it's a thing for you that'll change your life, Maddie. It's a thing that when I read it, same thing. I can stand on that and from there go do great things.
Sure.
And he had the courage to do it. He had the courage to write it down. He was doing it 10 years ago. I mean, it's still unpopular as shit. When I put out stuff about masculinity, instantly, I'm a misogynist and I have to be a racist because I'm white and all this other bullshit. This is 10 years ago, 10 years later, 10 years ago when things weren't quite as bad as they are now, he was willing to do that shit. Took a big ass risk. So I admire his courage for sure.
Sure.
But yeah, that's the word that comes to mind for me, man, inspiration, because from what he did, you can go out and do, apply that to your life and do better.
The next one, Jocko Willink. Matt?
Well, I do have his book. I read his book, Extreme Ownership. I saw a couple of his videos and stuff, speaking on Joe Rogan.
Former Navy SEAL, Black
Former
Belt
Navy SEAL.
Jiu-Jitsu.
I mean, 100% honorable, noble guy. I mean, I like him. I don't have anything bad to say about him. I wish, again, I'm an extremist. I just wish he would push more, towards. He took an oath to protect and defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic, as a military operative. So I believe that he needs to, as everyone does who took that oath, I think he needs to push that a little bit more. And maybe he will in the future. And again, it's not a bad thing. No one's doing it really. But I think guys like him are very important, pushing, driving people to become better and for men to become better. And again, he's a good guy. I don't think he's backpedaled from anything. I don't think he's sunk into any, I don't think he's pulled back on any of that philosophy that he teaches. So, I mean, he's very inspiring, and I give him credit. He's a good guy.
Travis?
Cashed out. Did his military service, and I'll forever be thankful for that. And that's enough. I get it, man. I put in my 10 years in education, and I feel like I served my time helping other people. But he is a natural leader, okay? And good for you, man. You found a way to make a bunch of money off of that. I'm not going to fault him for that. But where we need him, if he really truly believed in masculinity and making our country better at this point, he has to get inside the system and fix it from within. He's the type of guy with the connections. He's the type of guy with the personality, the smarts, the background, all of it. He could run for any office he wanted to, and he'd win, and he would help us, okay? If he got in there, he's at least supplanting some jagoff that doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about, okay? If he does that, I'll really be impressed. For now, he's satisfied making a bunch of money on the speaking circuit, doing all that. And again, I don't fault him for that, but we need more. We need more from him. That's all.
All right, next one. Let's go through these ones a little bit faster.
Go ahead.
Okay. Nikola Tesla.
Well, I'll tell you what, that dude was the man. He was way ahead of his time. Way ahead of his time. I mean, Edison was a cock.
He doesn't get enough credit, Nikola Tesla.
No, I think now, and sort of like this, subculture of people who know the truth about him. I think he does. He's even been portrayed in multiple movies, but he was the man. I mean, he's better than Edison. He was up there as one of the greatest.
Better than Albert Einstein?
Yeah, is he next, or do you want to hear what I got to say about him?
Okay. Go. All right.
But go ahead, Nikola Tesla.
Yeah, brilliant guy. Smart as hell. Like, can do things that, I mean, he was the Elon Musk of their time.
And then that. All right, Clint Eastwood.
Oh, I mean, great actor, great filmmaker.
He's pretty outspoken in Hollywood too.
He'll say some things. I mean, he spoke out against liberal stuff, liberal policies, far left policies. But yeah, I mean, solid guy, solid actor, solid movie director. All in all, a good guy. I like him.
Yeah.
Completely unwoke.
Yep.
Stainless as far as I'm concerned. That guy.
All right, here we go. Albert Einstein.
Complete fraud, got caught multiple times, plagiarizing stuff. I can prove it to you. I can show you all the information. I've done it before. Multiple stuff written. Of course, he gets credit because he's a certain ethnicity, so he gets the victimization card, and he gets credited and put in Hollywood movies, and he's obviously elevated to a ridiculous status. But if anybody wants the information, I can show you what a fraud he was and plagiarist.
All right. Travis.
Great hair.
Right,
Fucking guy's got great hair, man.
Henry Ford.
Great industrialist. I'll tell you what, this guy was ahead of his game. I mean, he revolutionized the car industry. I think he created the 40-hour work week. Am I right?
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So this guy was really, really good. I can't remember what the book was, but he put a book in every one of his vehicles.
Each of his vehicles he did.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I'll tell you what, this guy was, in my opinion, this guy had all the know-all and wherewithal to make this country great when it comes to business and industry.
Right.
Anti-Semite, hated Jews, had a newspaper in Dearborn, the town where Ford was born. Ford still operates out of Dearborn, Michigan. Hated Jews so much, in fact, his newspaper was so anti-Semitical, I can't remember how you say that, but what he chose to do was this. He said, I'll pay black people the same as white people. And so black people flooded into Michigan from the South. And the only reason he did that was because the only way he could chase the Jews out of Michigan was with black people. So if you cruise around different towns, suburbs of Detroit and Michigan, you're going to find a bunch of real old cemeteries filled with Star of David on every single headstone. But the community now is all black. And that's what Henry Ford's whole agenda was. I got to get rid of these Jews. I can only think of one way to do it. And he actually did it. I mean, we've got like one town that's got a Jewish population in at this point. I don't know if you guys knew that.
All right. Next one. I think we're pretty aware of Henry Ford's record here, but
okay.
Next one. Thomas Jefferson. Matty?
Actually freed more slaves than Lincoln did.
Were they all his?
Lincoln was dead before the 13th Amendment was fully ratified anyway. But I tell you what, he's my favorite president of all time. I call myself a Jeffersonian American just because I agree with his stance on a lot of different things. He wrote the Declaration of Independence. I mean, this guy was spot on. This guy, I mean, was part of the revolution. This is one of the main guys that was the reason that we're here right now. My favorite president of all time. And other than that, when it comes to Christianity, he said it right, man. He said, I am a Christian in the true sense that I believe in the teachings of Jesus Christ. Again, everyone says he's an atheist. He's an atheist. No, he wasn't. He was a deist. He didn't believe in the church. He didn't believe being part of an organized religion. Because everybody should worship the way they want to. He didn't like the church because of the way the church was in England and how it got involved with the state. And he had that phrase that is, real quick, separation of church and state. Nowhere in the Constitution people said it. No, separation of church and state was actually written by Thomas Jefferson, where he explains how the government needs to stay out
of the church.
And it was written to the Danbury Baptists in Connecticut when him and the Danbury Baptists were writing back to each other, talking about that wall of separation where the government can't do shit. That's your First Amendment, right? Congress shall make no law in regards to respect to religion and the free exercise thereof. Okay, go ahead.
Smartest, the most intelligent president we ever had. John F. Kennedy had a group of, and I say this in my book, a group of really intelligent young people, college students, wherever they were, in the White House and for a dinner. And he said, this is the collection of the highest amount of intelligence that's ever been in the White House to have dinner, with the exception of when Thomas Jefferson had dinner by himself. That's how fucking smart that guy was.
All right, last four real quick. We can be quick about these. Thomas Paine.
Thomas Paine, the only known atheist founding father. Common sense, though, I mean, key in getting people riled up for the revolution, getting people inspired to take action. The guy was a wordsmith. I really liked him. Great writer, great inspiration. He was the man when it came to getting people ready for the revolution in his writings. And I tell you what, everyone should buy a copy of Common Sense and read it. This is what was the main script that gave people the inspiration to fight in the War of Independence.
Yeah, quote machine, man. Anytime when I'm writing and I'm looking for a quote to say a certain thing, I start with Thomas Paine, man. His shit's so good. Yeah, quote machine.
All right, last one, then we got to go. Teddy Roosevelt.
I'll tell you what, I haven't looked into him too much, but that dude was pure masculinity, a hunter, traveler. I mean, the guy was part of the Light Horse, I believe. Was the Spanish-American War he was in? Was that correct? Yeah. So, I mean, this dude was he got shot. He got shot and then kept during his speech and then kept on speaking. So, I mean, this dude was a hardcore dude. This guy was a tough motherfucker.
We need him. He was a trust buster, they called him. When there was any kind of monopoly on business, he'd go in and bust it up. Yeah. And holy fuck, do we need that right now? Big tech, big pharma, you name it. We had a guy like that, he'd fix it all.
Yeah. All right. Our guest today, again, Travis Neville. He's the author of Reviving Masculinity, a phenomenal book. This is a blueprint for today's man to get things together, so to speak. But anyways, Travis, thank you for joining us. You can find this book at travisneville.com. Or just Google search it. It is excellent. Travis, thanks for joining us. I'm going to give you the last word in a second, but I'm going to plug one thing real quick. This Wednesday, 1:00 p.m., Matt will be a guest on the Rants of Izzo show here on Spreely TV. Again, you can watch us every Monday. I don't know if we're going to be on Channel 2 going forward, but every Monday, 4 p.m., turn into Spreely TV. You'll find us. It's the Berm Pit podcast. Travis, last word to you, sir.
Go Lions. Fucking go Lions. Detroit Lions are in the goddamn playoffs. I can't fucking believe it. My whole life, they've won one playoff game. I'm almost 50. We've won 2 this year. I can't believe it. Go Lions.
Awesome. Well, hey, brother. Thank you again for joining us. Thanks for everyone watching. Thanks to Studio Me and Peter J.S. Regan for running the show here. Matt, thanks for being here. Everybody, thank you. We're out of here. See ya.
All right.
Okay, so they'll close it down for us now. We don't have to do anything else?
Well, you can stay on.
We're good. Thanks, brother. Anytime you want to be a recurring guest, just message either one of us, and you can join us on any Monday. We like having guests on Monday. It helps us fill some content needs, and dude, you know,
anytime, man. I hope I didn't step on your dick there when I kind of jumped in on you. I didn't know what the format was. If we're supposed to go back and forth, or if we just kind of take the floor and then give it up.
I don't even know what you're referring to.
Yeah, you're great.
You were talking about something. And I jumped right in there, and you. I don't know. I don't know if we're
I
supposed
can't
to
even
wait
remember.
until
I can't even remember.
You're perfect.
Yeah,
good.
You're good.
I'll argue, man. I love to debate. That's some great shit. But I just
I've told him before, and Jack Donovan again. I reference him all the time. He said this. He goes, "Never argue with your enemies." He goes, "It's pointless." Because you only argue with people you respect because you're going in the same direction. You want the same. And that's not that we argued, but like my point is, I don't even speak to people who are too far gone. You know what I mean?
Either.
Like on the left. I don't even speak to them. I'm not joking because I know where they stand. I only speak to people who are very similar ideologically, you know, minded.
That can be saved.
Or potentially be saved. Because here's my problem with people.
What's Matt's problem with people, folks?
And this is people on the right, okay? Because I talk to the left. If I bring up a topic that might be taboo or, you know, not supposed to be spoken about, a lot of people are so fucking pussified that they don't even want to discuss it with me in a civil manner. You know what I mean? They don't even want to speak to me about, I don't want to talk about that. Well, I go, well, wait a minute. You know, if you make a comment here, you know, let me give you some more information. If I give you some information, will you read that? And they're like, no, or I don't care. It's like people are so set in their mind. Like, this is an example. If someone told me the earth was flat, okay, I might listen to me. All right. If you
got an argument, I'll listen to it. Yeah, for sure.
You can provide me with sufficient evidence. Not that I've been in outer space looking down. Okay, maybe that's a bad example, but I am open to anything, no matter how crazy or taboo, as long as you can provide substantial,
unemotional logic.
Proof. Okay, because trust me, in the past 6-7 years, I have done extensive research through multiple different avenues, multiple different people who have brought in subjects to me where I thought they were crazy. I don't get offended, by the way, on anything.
Neither do I.
When people bring me information, I'm like, you're nuts. Hey, if I show you something, will you watch? Absolutely. I'll absolutely look at it because I am willing to change my mind if I'm shown sufficient evidence.
I want truth.
I can't even talk to that will not do that because they're so fucking scared of not only seeking the truth, but speaking the truth. And it's just, it sickens me. And it's like, you know, I bring up Civil War stuff because it's not popular. Abraham Lincoln, right? I start saying Abraham Lincoln is a scumbag. And they're
a Democrat, by the way. No, I'm sorry.
that?
He founded the Republican Party. He founded the Republican Party, which were basically Democrats.
That's correct. And I give sufficient evidence. And the best that they've done is come up with excuses why he acted like a piece of shit. And I'm just like, okay, that's fine. But, you see where I'm coming from.
I'm going to give you a couple things, Matt, that are going to help you the next time you want to argue with somebody. Okay. This line has gotten me out of so much fucking shit, and it's this. Exceptions do not invalidate rules. Okay. I told you a thing that's happening. I told you a thing that's happening. You want to come up with a fucking exception. That doesn't mean the rule's not the fucking rule. So if Scott's got a gun to your head, Matt, and I have the shot and I take out Scott, I'm probably not going to jail for murder. Okay, because that's an exception. Does that mean we should make murder legal now?
No, exactly right.
No, you don't invalidate the rule for the fucking exception. So just because they can find an exception doesn't mean, and it shuts people right up.
Yep.
That's the first thing. And second, when I find some liberal going fucking nuts and they get all emotional, as soon as they do that, I know that they're ideologues. Because they've taken those ideas and they've hooked them to themselves instead of being able to analyze the idea outside of themselves. I just think this way. I think to myself, well, thanks to us. Because if it weren't for us creating this luxurious world where they can live their fantasy world, nobody's going to intrude on it, right? Take it as a pat on the back. I take it as a compliment. That meant not me, but men like us. My whole family, man. Every single one. I am the only one who isn't, truly. I missed a lot of holidays. I missed a lot of shit over because I wouldn't get the shot and all this bullshit, man. And my mom has read my book. Brother, sister, dad, in-laws, cousins, aunts, uncles, none of them have. Okay, they all think it's Trump propaganda. They see the word violent on the cover right? And they lose their fucking minds. They can't get past it. Not only are they going to judge a book by its cover, but they're going to judge the guy who wrote it that they've known since he was born. Yeah. That's how liberals think, though, man. As soon as you trigger them, they're fucking done. They're out.
Yeah, that's why I don't even bother. Not that if someone came to me objectively and truly wanted to hear, I would talk to them. But most of them so far, I don't approach them with anything. I just don't. Especially when they open up with some stupid, ridiculous comment. I'm just like, it's pointless.
They want to quote AOC. Fuck you.
Yeah, I'm Jack Donovan. No excuses, no explanations, no arguments.
Just say it.
Yeah.
You're in a weird.
I like that about him.
Yeah, I like that too. You're in a state where, man, in 2012 it went to Obama, in 2016 it went to Trump, in 2020 it goes back to Biden. What do you think Michigan's going to land?
That's Pennsylvania.
That's true. That's true. We're the same. We're in the same boat. PA.
Well, traditionally we're fucking Democrat, but that's only because Democrats used to be the blue collar party, right? So the automotive industry is what makes Michigan grind. All the major cities, GM, Ford, Chrysler are the primary employers, and when you boil it down, they still are. And the unions forever were Democrats because Democrats were about the working man, right? Well, they haven't been about the working man in a long time, probably 25 years. But we still have a bunch of people around thinking that that's what it is. And that's the only reason Michigan keeps going blue. Because, where I live, I left the population center, man. I used to live around Detroit area, and I got the fuck out of there and live way up by Mackinac City now, which is at the tip of the mitt. And up here, it is as red as can be. You get out of those cities, and there are no liberals anymore. They're gone. I mean, it's all Trump signs and fuck Biden flags. I probably pass 3 of them when I go to the gym in the morning. So it's deceiving. I don't know if you guys fall that way too. It sounds like you do. Sometimes your state will vote that way. It's just because of the fucking cities, and that's bullshit. Think about Illinois, dude. It's all fucking farms, but they got Chicago. But they got Chicago, and that fucking sways it all, dude.
Pennsylvania is Pittsburgh and Philadelphia.
That's it. It's PA. It's Pittsburgh and Philly.
But I mean, I think we can all agree that it doesn't. If they want to fix it, they can fix it. Number two, this is where I come from. Me and Scotty, I think you're in the same boat. I don't see how it matters. I have, again, under Trump's presidency, I literally saw more damage ever before in the 20th and 21st century.
Especially that
during COVID.
That last year. Yeah.
That was the biggest deprivation of constitutional rights in the 20th and 21st century that we have ever had. And not only he did nothing, he had the constitutional authority to do stuff. And during Marxist BLM riots and Antifa destruction, he did nothing and had constitutional authority to do something. But not only that, he didn't even speak about doing anything. He didn't tell anybody to do anything. He created the vaccine. He gave welfare to all the pharmaceutical